Hey everybody. Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Selena Paley. I am live again from the National Citizens Inquiry here in Red Deer, Alberta. And I have with me Dr. Gregory Chan. Dr. Chan is a general practitioner or family medicine doctor, and he practices medicine in Ponoka. And we just heard his testimony live in the hearing. And Dr. Chan, you said some really interesting things in there, one of which that piqued my interest was that you mentioned the definition of the word vaccine has changed. So that piqued my interest because I also noticed that over the course of the last 2 to 3 years that, especially when the CDC came out and said that, confirmed rather, that it wasn't providing the immunity that it thought. So according to the old definition, the word vaccine implied just that. It would provide immunity to a disease. And then when we look at the definition of the word now, what does it say or suggest?
Well, I believe that the new definition from the CDC states that a vaccine is something that induces immunity, induces an immune response, is what they changed it to. When we were going through the pandemic, my wife and I we were trying to make sense of what was going on, and we noticed that looking up the definition in the online dictionaries, the definition of vaccine was different, especially in the more mainstream online dictionaries, like the Merriam-Webster.
Right. I have that definition here. I took the liberty of writing it down. I wonder if I could just recite it, and then maybe you could let us know what it means exactly. So I checked both Google and the Merriam-Webster online, and according to Google, vaccine is a substance used to stimulate immunity to a particular infectious disease or pathogen, typically prepared from an inactivated or weakened form of the causative agent or from its constituents or products. So that's a lot of words. Can you explain to us in more layman terms what they're trying to say it is?
Well, typically a vaccine would be a dead agent. Right. So let's say it's a bacteria or virus. It's non-functional. It's just a shell, or it'll be broken up pieces of that shell. So proteins that are arranged in a certain way that your immune system will develop a response to it, or it'll be a attenuated version of that infectious agent. So it does something, but it doesn't do what it would do in its 100% like natural form. So that's the usual traditional types of vaccines.
Okay. And according to your professional opinion, would the original or the old definition of vaccine be applicable to this mRNA injection or COVID shot that everybody got?
No, I would say that it doesn't fit the traditional model of a vaccine, because those vaccines, you get a standard dose when you either take it either as an oral vaccine or as an injection. You get a standard amount, and then your body has to interact with it and then develop a response, and then you actually are protected from that condition. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, so that I think has been the most confusing part for a lot of people, and maybe the most misleading. To call it a vaccine when it really isn't, and then to conveniently change the definition to support what it actually is, I think is, what word would you use in that case?
Well, I would say that it's not 100% truthful. It's misleading when you're being told that this is a vaccine, and then people think from a vaccine, I'll be protected. I mean, for example, if you got your hepatitis B vaccine, then you would lower your possibility of having hepatitis B. But with these injections, you developed an immune response, like antibodies that could be measured in your blood, but whether it actually reduced the chance of getting the infectious agent, the severity of it, I mean, I understand that's changed over time, but the effectiveness of these injections and how much of the spike protein, the thing that you're trying to develop a response against, it's not controlled. It's completely uncontrolled. So there are some concerns with how this injection is put together.
I would say concerns are is the right word to use right now. What would you say is your main concern about what you're seeing in your patients coming to you post-injection?
Well, the concern is whether these symptoms are related to the injection or not, and it's really hard to make that connection. I mean, I don't have the ability to if a person had a rash to, definitively say is it's hard. So what I'm trying to do is to see if there's a correlation in time from receiving the injections. But I think the more time that passes from having received the injection, it's going to be even more difficult to see if there's a link, because there's a lot of things that can develop over time. So, the thing that I would be concerned about would be autoimmune conditions, and people that have autoimmune conditions are where your own body starts attacking your own
body, basically.
Yeah.
So, we know for a fact, I think now, and you can disagree or agree with me on this or not, but from the pathologist's perspective, the embalmers, what they're seeing, at least post-mortem, are these white fibrous structures that we've heard a lot about now. And we understand that when they get the injection, what they were at one point referring to as a vaccine, the traditional vaccines would stay close to and around the injection site, whereas this one is circulating through the entire body, even to the brain, right, causing could potentially cause a host of issues. And from the post-mortem facts that are now coming to the surface, they are suggesting that once the blood is cooled, they are seeing these white fiber structures are consistent with protein. And so is that what is causing the death? This is the question on the table right now. Is it something that you in your profession has ever seen before?
Well, I mean, that's an interesting phenomenon that's been observed, and it'd be interesting to actually test those proteins to see is there any spike protein there or not. I mean, we're trying to piece it together, and if we're trying to make a logical argument, there should be this treatment, it does this thing, and we see this stuff that happens to these people. So how can we, is there a link or not? And that's part of doing the detective work to see if there's a relationship between the two. And I think it's really hard to do that if we don't have the tools to make that connection. And I certainly, I don't want to say that it all does a certain thing. It's not black and white, because we know a lot of people that have had the injections and they were okay. And they haven't had any side effects. Yeah. And then there are some that have had some serious events, and it's not a rare thing. I think that's the thing that I really want to stress, is that it's not a rare thing, and things have happened. What things are they? How common are they? And we won't really know that until we gather all the data, and then you can say, well, maybe it's hair loss is something. I'm just making up examples, but hair loss is a common side effect of this. Well, you'd only know that if you were collecting the data. You could see that a myocarditis, that is a thing now, and that's a thing that the chance of that happening we were told it was rare, like extremely rare, and then now it's like 1 in 5,000. Even the medical officer of health for Ontario said that 1 in 5,000. That's not that rare.
And of all ages,
yeah.
It affects kids too, which is the most concerning part in all of this, I think.
Yeah, and I think it affects people of different age groups differently. So, I mean, the Scandinavian countries in 2021 said males under the age of 30 should be aware of the side effect of myocarditis. And, they were talking about that then, and then yet over here, we were telling our population to go get the injections. I mean, how does that fit? How does that make sense? And that's odd.
Question, Dr. Chan. I guess what I would like to ask you, if you can lend any, advice for just our concerned citizens. There's a lot of us out there right now. From what we're seeing, we all seem to have a loved one affected by this in some way, shape, or form. What can we do to get that ball rolling, to encourage our Health Canada health professionals from the top to give you guys the time and the resources that you need to start at least investigating and researching these possible correlations?
I think we have to acknowledge that it's possible. I mean, if the automatic response is that it's not possible, then you automatically brush people off, And I think that's the thing that's distressing, is because people are told to do this out of duty. You know, I'm doing this for my neighbor, I'm doing this for other people, and really that kind of messaging, if you've told people that and they went and did their duty, then we should look after them. Like, we should acknowledge it, and then we should help them along. And we may not be able to definitively link the two, but if they've been injured in some way, then we should be able to help them along.
Have we, as a society, as a country, in the history, ever propositioned a vaccine that it would help me and somebody else, or just me?
You know, previously, I think with the influenza vaccines, like I work in a hospital, I work in long-term care, so they often tell us we should get it so that we don't get infected, we don't spread it to other people. So that is something that has been, you know, sold or told to us as an encouragement to get the vaccine to protect the long-term care.
I think that's the part that confuses me the most, because if you have immunity, then you shouldn't be susceptible to getting it again. Okay, all right. That's another discussion, I think, maybe.
Yeah, for influenza, you mean?
Well, just for the whole purpose of getting a vaccine is to give you immunity, which means, like, what does immunity mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, immunity means that you would be unlikely to get the infection again.
Right.
And I mean, this is kind of a side trail, but I mean, we're going into natural immunity. Like, people that had COVID were told to get the injections. Like, why? It was even in January 2021, the CDC published public information saying that natural immunity seemed to last for up to 8 or 9 months. Yet that information was ignored, completely ignored. And from my own personal reading of looking at whether a person should get vaccinated after having had COVID, I mean, the benefit was only
risk analysis, right?
Yeah. The looking at all the information that was available, you could increase the amount of antibodies against COVID, for sure, if you recovered from an infection, then you got the shots. But the actual the side effect profile is a lot higher. So, you know, if I already had COVID and they didn't measure the outcomes that matter, like dying from COVID or hospitalization or ICU. They just said, well, look at your antibody levels. You can get them so much higher if you've recovered from COVID and you get your shots. So go get vaccinated. Well, does that actually matter? Does the endpoint actually matter?
That was
No.
my question as well. That was the exact same question, which is why I chose not to, because, you know, this is the first time that I'm aware of in the history of being on this earth that we have fast-tracked something of this invasive nature, especially if something we didn't have any studies done on. I mean, even especially when it came to the pregnant women, the efficacy, I read the Comirnaty sheets, the efficacy had not yet been established, and I said, why are they telling that it's safe then? Like, how do they even know that if it's right here it says it's not? So, you know, this is the kind of thinking that I had, and the most troubling thing, I think, to me was we have these credible, educated, intelligent, critically thinking health professionals such as yourself who are being silenced, who were not being listened to, who are being gaslit and shoved under the rug. We saw that not just with doctors, but with pathologists. We've seen that with immunologists, virologists, like all these people who actually know a damn thing about this stuff were being silenced. And, you know, I think that for me has been the most troubling. And so, you know, I'm so grateful that you're here today to provide your testimony on the record so that they can't brush it under the rug anymore. Can I just ask you in closing, like, what compelled you to come out here today and share your story and your information?
Well, for so long through this pandemic, we were told that we couldn't say things. There are things that we couldn't do, and we had to say things exactly the way we were told to say them. And if we had any thought that deviated from what the mainstream narrative was from public health, then we were shunned. We were told that we were bad doctors. We were told we were bad healthcare professionals. And it wasn't like that initially in the pandemic. We were lauded for the things that we did. We were working in the emergency department. We were seeing sick people. But quickly through the summer of 2021, if you didn't fit the narrative, you didn't say what you were supposed to say, then you were shunned. You were told you were evil. People made up all these stories about what you were doing, and they were actually went as far as to say that you were going to kill grandma. and then you're going to kill your patients because you were.
You would be directly responsible for. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh, but that is just the most ridiculous. And was this coming from AHS or your College of Physicians and Surgeons?
Well, I think that's more mainstream narrative as far as like you'd kill your grandma. But as far as college, they said, no, you need to fit the narrative. You need to say what is being said. If a person asks you for an exemption, you cannot give one, regardless of their medical history. And even if you've had COVID already, you need to tell people to get the shot anyways. And, you know, they would say things without any clear evidence. And having looked at the information and seeing it a different way, it somehow didn't matter. So that's why I came here today, is to really speak about what I've seen, and because we weren't allowed to say this for the longest time. Now we have this opportunity, and I'm very grateful for that.
Okay, well, I'm really glad that you said that. Last thing now, this is for sure the last thing. There was a lot of speculation that the doctors were getting a financial kickback for every injection that they administered or their patients received, but now from hearing you, that it sounds almost like you were a little bit bullied or shamed into not saying or doing something else. So was there a financial kickback for you?
For administering? Well, I mean, personally, I chose not to. Like, we had the option to in where I work, and I chose not to. It was a voluntary thing, so you didn't have to. But I think in general, as doctors in Alberta, you are allowed to charge for an injection. So I think it might be, I have to be very clear in saying that if you came in for a stub toe and you came in for a tetanus injection, I can charge for both. Okay, so if someone came in for a COVID injection, you can charge for that. So I don't think it's any different from what the financial incentive would be for other vaccines. So there wasn't like a massive kickback. It's not like our clinic received like thousands of dollars. It's not like that. It's just part of your standard medical care.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you very much for this interview. I appreciate you coming and sharing this information with everybody. We only get so much, and you know what the mainstream media has done. So thank you very much, and good luck with everything. Okay. Thank you. All right, guys. That was Dr. Chan. We'll trade spots. Okay. All right. You still with me, everybody? Okay. Okay, so that was Dr. Gregory Chan. Wow, what an amazing interview that was. And he confirmed a lot of things for me. You know, they were up against a lot too. I can't even imagine being put in that position, trying to care for somebody in the way that you know how that is best, and being railroaded and manipulated into treating them in a way that fits a narrative. It's just absolutely disgusting. This, you know, this has to stop, and we need some accountability. Thanks everybody for watching so far. I've got one more interview coming from the day. Stay tuned. That'll be later. Selena Paley live from Red Deer, Alberta with the National Citizens Inquiry. And I thank you very much for joining me today, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, guys. Bye for now.